Action Research Plan, Teaching, Research, and Educational Inquiry by Leah Zarconi. Statement of Research Problem, Core Values. My core values include respect, integrity, and care. By continuously modeling respect, I believe that mutual respect will be attained and create a more comfortable and safe environment in everyday life. Integrity is another important value to me because it is a reminder to always do the right thing and to be honest. I believe it is important to always be honest, not only with others, but also with yourself. Lastly, care allows me to put all my energy into what I am doing in order to truly try my very best. I believe fostering and modeling respect as an educator allows for mutual respect to be built between teacher and students. By having integrity, both the teacher and students benefit. Teachers are reminded to do the right thing by being patient with their students during chaotic times, such as transition times, and students are reminded to do the right thing by listening to the teacher's instructions and staying on task. By caring, teachers and students are able to try their very best at each and every daily task. Personally, when I care about something, I give it my all, and this is something I want to instill into the minds of my students. By digging into my core values and thinking about them in relation to classroom management, I have been able to develop my action research plan. Statement of Research Problem, Topic and Problem. The topic area of interest I chose related to classroom practice is classroom management, with a focus on the issue of transition times. With having experience in the classroom setting in all three of my practicum blocks, transitions were a common issue. With the amount of curriculum required to teach in the limited amount of time in a school day, I consistently found that valuable instructional time was lost because of poor transitions. By the time the students were settled at their desks, had taken out their materials, and showed that they were ready to learn and participate in the lesson, a portion of the period was lost. This problem is important to investigate because I believe if transition times were smoother, students would benefit in their learning by having more instructional time. Statement of Research Problem, Research Question. What transition strategies positively affect instructional time and student learning, and why are these strategies effective? Statement of Research Problem, Definitions of terms. Some terms that will help better understand the research question include transitions. Transitions, movement, passage, or change from one position, state, stage, subject, concept, etc. to another. Change, the transition from adolescence to adulthood. The second definition is for the word instructional. Instructional, the act or practice of instructing or teaching, education. Statement Research Problem, a preliminary research review. The first article that I chose for my preliminary research review is titled Decreasing Transition Times in Elementary School Classrooms, Using Computer-Assisted Instruction to Automate Intervention Components, by Jeffrey F. Hine, Scott P. Ardoin, and Tori E. Foster. This article looks at previous research to conclude that transitions play a major role in interrupting instructional time in the classroom. It speaks about different transition strategies, such as transition signals, example, verbal warning, and performance feedback, but concludes that these may not always be reliable and effective. In order to resolve these issues, the article focuses on the strategy of computer-assisted instruction called Keep Busy and Carry On, in order to increase the reliability and effectiveness of transition strategies in the classroom. This instruction consisted of videos including auditory and visual cues, transition timers, transition countdowns, rules, and a points system. Students and/or groups of students would receive points depending on the success of their transition. Results of this study show that the implementation of KBCO increased time on task by a mean of 70%, resulting in less time being wasted. The second article I chose for my preliminary research review is titled Taking the Time Out of Transitions by Caroline Guardino and Elizabeth Kirby Fullerton. This article looks at the importance of reducing transition times, specifically in inclusion classrooms. It explains that teachers often use similar transition strategies with every learner. However, the effectiveness may be more difficult because of the variety of learners in the classroom. The article explains that preventative strategies may be a good starting point. However, more strategic interventions may be necessary in a classroom with multiple learners. This particular study implemented environmental modifications. Example, lines on the rug to indicate seating rows, and chimes to begin or end transitions, in order to evaluate their effectiveness. Results include a reduction in transition times by about 1 minute and 36 seconds, resulting in less time being wasted. The third and final article that I chose for my preliminary research review is titled Singing Smooths Classroom Transitions by Sarah E. Matthews. This article digs into why transitions are difficult for students in early childhood education. These reasons include that students may not understand what they are expected to do in specific transitions. It may be difficult for students to deal with change, and students may be engaged in the activity they are participating in. In order to resolve these problems, this article looks at the effectiveness of using the strategy of singing in order to reduce time being wasted during transition times in early childhood classrooms. Results include that this strategy did in fact reduce time wasted during transitions and resulted in students singing without teacher prompting. Action Research Plan, Data Sources. Who are the participants in the study? The participants in the study include the students and the teacher. Where will the data be collected? For this study, the data will be collected in the classroom setting. Research Plan, Data Sources. The first data source I chose is observation. Here, I will be looking for evidence of instructional time gained when transitional strategies are implemented. When looking at the why, I'm doing this in order to learn what strategies positively affect instructional time and why they do so. When looking at the who, I am focusing on students and the teacher. When looking at the when, this will be done weekly from October to May. And when looking at the how, there will be video recordings of large group or whole class. The recording date and times of observations will be included in the documentation. The second data source that I chose to use in my research plan is anecdotal notes. Here, I am looking for evidence of instructional time gained when transitional strategies are implemented. When looking at the why, I am hoping to learn what transitional strategies positively affect instructional time and why they do so. When looking at the who, I will be focusing on students and the teacher. When looking at the when, this will be done weekly from October to May. When looking at the how, the use of sticky notes will be used to record the strengths and weaknesses of transitional strategies. The date and time will also be included on these sticky notes in the documentation. The last data source I chose to use in my research plan are teacher journals. Here, the teacher will be reflecting on instructional time gained when transitional strategies are implemented. When looking at the why, I am hoping to learn what transitional strategies positively affect instructional time and why they do so. When looking at the who, I will be focusing on students and the teacher. When looking at the when, this will be done at the end of the month from October to May. When looking at the how, individual reflections will be written by the classroom teacher. The teacher will reflect on the effectiveness of transitional strategies and how they benefit instructional time. Maintaining reliability and validity. These three data sources best suited my action research plan because they offered the most effective outlet into reliable and valid results. For example, surveys and interviews would not provide me with the information I would need in order to research a reliable and valid result, because I am looking at transition times, not students' knowledge or opinions. Observations allow me to see my students transitioning in action. Anecdotal notes allow me to document these transitions, and teacher journals allow me to reflect on the effectiveness of strangulation of data. It is clear that both observation and anecdotal notes are both looking for evidence of instructional time gained when transitional strategies are implemented. The benefit of using teacher journals as a data source is that they allow for reflecting on the instructional time gained when transitional strategies are implemented. Timeline chart for my data collection procedures. This chart indicates when the data will be collected and how long the data will be collected. Observation will be collected weekly from October to May. Anecdotal notes will be collected weekly from October to May. And lastly, teacher journals will be collected at the end of each month, once again from October to May. Data collection procedures. Ethical considerations. A few ethical considerations that correlate with my action research plan include permission from the principal to undergo the action research plan in the school setting, permission from parents that their child is involved in the action research, and permission from parents for the teacher to use video recordings in their observations. In my presentation, it is important to note the feedback that I used from my proposal. My feedback included the following. Love the topic. Like I said before, so much time wasted that can be reclaimed. Nice format and content. I used this feedback in order to expand on the information in my action research plan. This provided a strong context for me in developing my plan. Thank you for listening and watching. The end.